Hey, this is Christian Buckley with another MVP Buzz Chat, and I'm here talking today with Ragnar. Good afternoon to you.
Hey, Christian. Thanks so much for having you in your show.
Yeah,
I'm very excited.
It's great to have you. And we're just talking about your backdrop. So you've got New York City behind you.
Exactly. That's the most American background what I have. I actually live in Germany in a town which nobody knows, so I don't have to mention it. It's more or less like between Frankfurt and Hanover. And it's the geographical center of Germany. So it's the heartland of Germany. We're very proud.
Excellent. You know, it's funny. I've been over to Germany about a dozen times. I've never been north of Berlin much. It's like everything. It's always going south. But I'd love to spend more time and explore that country.
Exactly. Yeah, countryside is very beautiful, and you have to go to the north, especially to Hamburg, which is beautiful. It's a completely different culture than in other parts like Berlin and Munich.
Yep.
Or you come to Cologne, where my office is. So actually, I have a company office where I travel like twice a month, and usually I'm doing home office. So yeah.
Well, why don't you introduce yourself, like who you are, where you say we know you're in Germany, but what you do and kind of your claim to fame. Why don't you tell us about yourself?
Exactly, yeah. So I was born 46 years ago here in the heartland of Germany. I'm living here in this house with my family. I've got a wife and 3 kids. And so my history with Microsoft started around 50 years ago. And I joined Microsoft by the acquisition of Fast Search. Fast Search is now the search engine under the hood of SharePoint, Exchange. Office Graph is powered by Fast Search and so on, Delve, and all these great experiences. And then I joined Microsoft. I worked 11 years at Microsoft and in different roles. I started in Microsoft Services as a SharePoint consultant, 7-8 years. And then I moved to the Customer Success Management team, and I was Office 365 CSM for my workplace. And then this team was made redundant. And then I moved into an Office 365 E5 channel lead role, covering Austria, Switzerland, and Germany. Then 1.5 years ago, I left Microsoft and I joined a company called Methodologics, where we have a common shared history.
Yes. And I have to point out that it's a rarity that you left Microsoft and were made an MVP like within a month of leaving.
On the next day, yeah. So.
It was like very cool. I have to say, because you were very active and well known within the community side and stuff that you were doing outside of your role for Microsoft, and that was part of that. But that was very quick.
Absolutely, yeah. The thing was, I always loved the community work. So my heart is really beating for the community, which means even if I was in a partner sales role at Microsoft, I was always spending my time in community events, and I was always blogging and tweeting. So yeah, so I was one of the most active guys so I was the most active Yammer user in Microsoft Germany. I was very active on social media. I'm on Twitter since 11 years and so on. And that made me, and therefore I have a passion for social media on the one hand. On the other hand, I love the community, and I really like this mindset of sharing and giving. And that's really why I invested so much time. And then I had around 30 contributions from this year. And then with 30 contributions in 1 year, Microsoft made me an MVP at the day when I joined Methodologics.
That's pretty cool.
And then I joined Methodologics, and I think half a year later we were acquired by Quest. And this happened in July 2018, and now I'm since 1 year part of Quest, and I'm leading the Methodologics product line as a partner channel manager for Germany, Austria, Switzerland, Netherlands, Belgium, and Luxembourg.
Excellent. And so what are you, I mean, you're doing a lot of events, you're out there, for community activities, you're doing things on your own as well as for Quest. what are kind of your topics? What are you most passionate about these days?
Yeah, so the main passion is actually around teams. So, you know, as I said, I'm extremely passionate about Yammer, but I'm working now with teams since 4 to 5 years. So I was one of the really early users of Teams when it was called Team Spaces. And now I'm extremely passionate to increase the so-called adoption and active usage and consumption of Teams. And here we have products to migrate to Teams from legacy stuff like file shares and SharePoint to Microsoft competitors like Box, Dropbox, and Google Drive. We can migrate to Teams. So that's one of my really favorite topics. And then also the security and compliance space, because we want to make sure that the modern workplace is not only a beautiful collaboration area, but it's also secure and compliant.
Sure.
People can work everywhere and anywhere.
Well, anytime. So you've got that partner perspective and working within SharePoint space and, you know, across the Office 365 platform. As you work with customers that are starting to adopt Teams, where do you see that they have areas that they're struggling? Kind of like what are some learnings from working with clients as they're onboarding into Teams?
Yeah, so one of the major things is customers are so enthusiastic about Teams that they just activate it immediately, and then everybody's going to join, and they are going to create a nice chaos because they don't care about governance. They have never introduced governance. So, but it's a little bit, so please excuse my wording. So sometimes they say, yeah, Teams is growing like cancer. So it's really wild and they totally lose control. And then they have no idea anymore about how many groups do I have? Do I have maybe 5 or 10 marketing groups, and nobody knows which marketing group they should use? And then they have totally lost control about the connectors and apps and third-party applications which are used, and they have no idea about the external users. So personally, I'm very happy about this high acceptance of Teams, but I also see a lot of downsides regarding missing governance, which creates security risk. And we as Quest, we have a tool which can control, hey, listen, if you have 4 different tenants and every tenant has got 80 teams, we can create a report which shows all the external users and all the apps you might consider, because they can leak your data out of your teams into the world. You don't want to see your data flowing down.
You know, so this is a legit, because I'm not kept up with what has happened on the Metalogics and Quest side for as far as tools, but you know, one of the questions that I've heard quite often is, you know, is Microsoft working on the ability to, you know, archive a team or merge duplicate teams together? I mean, that doesn't exist on the product side. It's a pretty large effort to be able to go and do that, because there are so many moving parts within a team. It's not just like taking a file share, say, okay, we'll lock down permissions and now move all the content over and then open it up again. Because content, your files, that's just one small part of what is in a team. I mean, is there something like that exist?
Yeah. So the real file migration, that's the easiest part. So we can easily migrate the files from one team to the other team, or from one tenant to the other tenant. So that's easy. The tricky thing is really the conversations and so on, and then the tab configuration, the connector configuration, the bot config, OneNote migration is tricky, and so on. So that's something where we definitely need an API. We would love to invest more here, but first we need the API. So right. There are the APIs on the Microsoft Teams side, which we are not having. We could make more features of more products if it would be available. And we are also missing the migration API to make the migrations faster, actually.
Right. Well, and I think the conversation is the problem too. Is that, I mean, you can archive those exchange-based conversations, and it just happens if you archive now a Microsoft team, you remove all the permissions. It's basically storing those, making them searchable, all of those assets. but you can't move the state of a current conversation over, lock it down, move it to another location, then start the conversation up again. There's no way to migrate in that sense.
That's possible. So we can migrate the conversations. Yeah. So
well, it is possible today.
Yeah. That is, yeah. So we're using here the client API because the migration API is not there. So we can migrate a conversation, but yeah, as we said, it depends on the customer expectation. Customer can be happy what we can show them. On the other hand, it's still not on the high, robust, super fast level what we see on SharePoint, where we have the migration API.
Yeah. So it's just a very manual, messy process, and because if you do have all those bot connectors and other tools and things that you basically have to go and reinstall those all again and make sure that it's consistent. But I mean, if you're able to move the files, you're able to move the conversations, and then start up those conversations again.
Yep. No, that is possible. Yeah, it works fine. It's just the thing that other main capabilities like OneNotes, like wikis, like custom, like tabs and so on, configuration parts. There we're missing the API.
Sure.
So we are here in a very early phase, and as I said, we would like to invest more, but depending, we are dependent on the API level. But Microsoft knows this, and it's nothing which is new to them.
Right. Well, it's I think it's just where we are in the maturity of the platform, and there's a laundry list of things that people are asking for. Well, what are the other things that your customers that you're talking to? What are they asking for? What are the things that are I don't know to say that they're gaps, but just that people really want to see with capability within the product.
Instead of Teams, so it's more or less really around. I'm German, so I have to talk also a little bit about German customers, and especially enterprise customers. They love governance. They really love the governance, and that means they love processes, and they really love processes around provisioning, where you have to apply for a team, and then you have to choose a naming convention and so on, and then they have a very predefined prefix and suffix and naming a convention, and then they have a very clear Teams content lifecycle approach from the first, to until archiving and so on. So that would be something what German customers would really love to see.
Well, templates falls into that. I mean, you have to be able to go in there and automate your provisioning process as part of your broader governance of the platform, and to say it's like, all right, you are requesting a new team workspace. We have 3 flavors of teams. Here's a project-based, an initiative-based, and more of kind of an organizational collaboration, just for an example. And you can then go in there and set up those teams.
So it's a mixture of teams with predefined channel settings. Also here are the private and here are the public channels. Then the new vertical templates, for healthcare and so on, education, predefined templates, predefined SharePoint configuration. These are the SharePoint, on-prem sites, which are already predefined bots and connectors. So it's all around templating, packaging, and provisioning. So if this could be achieved, then we would be one step further, because what we see is that customers and especially end users expect to have a pre-provisioned workspace. They don't like workspaces where everything is empty and vanilla.
It's wide open, right? Yeah, it's always the first question. It's like that customers that want they say, well, what are the best practices? What is how do they recommend that we use the technology? And to be able to go in there and just say that it's like, hey, it's whatever you need to use. You go and set that up. They're like, well, you need to give us some constraint within this of how this works. Well, but it should be up to the organization to go in there and define, like, look, here is our project management methodology, for example. Here's our governance. Here's our project management structure for the way that projects are managed, and to be able to
determine
what those core components are. Yeah, no, I would see that the German market would absolutely love the templates.
It's a little bit, like a writer. Some writers, they love empty white blank sheets and they just start writing a new chapter, a new book on a white paper. Others say, oh, if I see a white paper, I'm totally afraid. And then I'm staring for 3 hours on a white paper and I don't know what to write. And so that's always the balance here, what you have to find here.
Well, that's what it's kind of like having an outline. So you're still not, I'm not dictating to you what to write inside of the content, how to go in there and collaborate. But if I, as an organization, go in there, here's that structure.
If you're inviting new users, it should be somehow simulating, and they have to see the use case and so on, and they have to see the business benefit, because otherwise, if they don't see the business benefits, it's just another tool. And why to use Teams now? Because email and chat was great in OneDrive as well.
There was an interesting study done a few years ago, and I'm going to very loosely paraphrase it. It was actually done by America Online and AOL, and everybody kind of snicker like AOL. Who cares? How long ago was that? AOL has actually turned itself into a very successful and profitable media company. But when they did a study on users' interactions with comments. And it was interesting, and we've seen versions of this in like the history of Yammer, and where it was successful. And what the data that they showed is that people are like 3 times as likely to participate in a conversation if someone else has already commented. Like if I go into an article and there's not a single comment down below, I'm less likely to add in my thoughts on that article if there are no other comments. If I see a bunch of other people commenting down below, and then I'm going to go throw my thoughts into that. It's like 3 times, 4 times as likely. Yeah. And it's like that famous video with the dancer, the crazy dancer guy at the concert, and he's dancing alone on the hill. Have you seen that video?
I haven't seen it, no.
Oh, I'll share a link with you. But it's the crazy dancer, and what happens is, it's just the camera's on him, and everybody's laughing at him, and then a second person goes and starts dancing goofy with the guy, and then within minutes, there's hundreds of people that are dancing crazy.
Oh yeah.
It's the same idea.
And I usually call it no, I never call it. It's called the Microsoft Teams waste bin approach, because if you have a bike and the bike is having a waste bin, and usually it's clean and empty, but if people are throwing garbage and waste into it, then more people are adding more waste, and then at the end the whole bike thing is full of cans and the stuff, because people are just adding more and more, and that's a thing which is a bad behavior. But we want to increase this behavior in Teams, because lurking is not the way how we think about the future of collaboration. So we want to reduce we want to reduce the barriers of engagement.
Right, and one of it too that's a strong governance story as well is kind of keeping the space clean and organized. When people, if they don't know where to put their information or to go to have a conversation, then they're less likely to share in that space. If it's very clear, if they see it in an organized way, it's like, oh yeah, now I need to talk about we're going to do this offsite, and here's the appropriate place to go and talk about this kind of activity, and they're more likely to then have those conversations.
Because I've seen really people who said, listen, I get the idea of Teams, I really like Teams, great tool, but now I've got 5 marketing groups, and now I don't know where to place, so I'm going back to email because I have no idea which is the right marketing group. And that's one of the reasons why we need governance. And and also we want to make sure that we really migrate all the legacy and competitor tools to Teams, because then there is no chance anymore to store here in, I don't know, file servers and here in emails hidden somewhere. So we really want to migrate it into Teams, because then we are preventing that people are storing duplicate things, and yeah. So we really want to make Teams the heart of collaboration.
Well, we've talked for a few years now about for most of my career, I've heard different versions of the shadow IT conversation, that when people are frustrated that they can't get done what they need to get done, or they look at IT, the IT organization, as a barrier to giving them the features and capabilities that they feel they need to move forward, that they'll go around. So that's where this rogue or shadow IT initiative starts up. One of the, in my mind, more compelling stories around Teams was this idea that, look, as you identify these shadow IT initiatives, these products and services that aren't sanctioned by IT for whatever reason, that you can instead have a conversation, say, with end users saying, come out of the shadows, share this feature, this service that you're using, add it as a tab within the team so that the project team, we have some visibility to it. So you centralize that, and then you start educating them as you learn more about it, saying, well, you know, hey, because maybe they have a valid reason for using that third-party service, that cloud-based service, but at least surface it within Teams for the broader team, and then, you know, and then start to have that education of like, well, you know, actually you get 80% of what you need or 100% of what you're doing with this through this out of the box or through a Teams, you know, enabled service that is, you know, then it uses, you know, Teams or SharePoint on the back end to secure the information. And so it's a way to get a lot of that out of, you know, under control. That's, again, part of governance. That's
exactly what I mean.
But the secret is doing that without restricting collaboration, without restricting end users and what they're doing, how they're doing it, giving them more options.
Yeah, and that's something what I really appreciate, that really Microsoft has changed from the bomber mindset into this way. Such a things is that there is no the possibility to embed also, I don't know, Box and Dropbox into Teams. So because sometimes customers have a good reason to still use Dropbox and Box, and then they can use Teams because it can be their default storage. So it's not, you know, I would never say that I'm against Dropbox or Box or Google Drive, because I'm also using them for very special use cases. But for the classical end user who is not so tech savvy like we are, it's just confusing if they would have 5 different cloud storages, because the typical end user only wants one storage, because otherwise he or she has to think like 10 times or 20 times a day when to use Box, Dropbox, Google Drive, and so on, OneDrive, and SharePoint, and so that's just too complicated. And
I completely agree. The only thing what I would say is that you know, there are plenty of opportunities though to consolidate as well. We're not saying don't go in and consolidate if there are not valid. You know, if somebody's insisting on using Google Drive for just a cloud-based storage, and there's no real reason beyond just that's what they've always used in a prior company or whatever, saying, well, there's, you know, it doesn't make sense to maintain every tool that's out there. That's not what we're saying. But when there are valid reasons, there should be integrations. You should be able to support those things.
Yeah. That's great. Yeah.
Well, excellent. Well, Ragnar, people want to find out more about you or get in touch with you. What's the best ways that they can reach you?
Yes, so I've got a few blogs. So I've got a more private blog, which is more about headsets and so on. It's called Ragnar.blog. And then the Microsoft 365 related one is called Ragnar Heil in one word, .de. Then I'm blogging about Office 365 and Teams, of course. And then, yeah, just reach me on LinkedIn, Twitter, or just enter my name into the Google or Bing search engine.
You know, you type your name into any search engine. It's not going to be difficult to mistake
no. There's only one single person living on this planet with my name, so this is unique. Yeah.
And you can see Ragnar in a crowd as well, easy to spot.
Exactly. Yeah. Some companies, they have lighthouse customers, and here they have lighthouse colleagues like me.
Yeah. I made a comment in Inspire when I saw you. It's like, you know, I noticed that you naturally, you know, any photo, and you do this kind of lean down in. I'm just like, you got to watch your back as you get older, Ragnar.
You try to vent it and always be, you know, really not doing this, but
yeah. You stand proud, tower above everybody. Everybody's head is like down here to you. But
yeah.
It's great seeing you. Great talking to you again. And
like always. Meeting you, talk to you.
Talk to you later.
Thank you. Bye-bye.